"Get out of here, beggar, you're scaring my clients," he shouted. Bradley Peterson, manager of Metropolitan Plaza's most expensive electronics store, violently pushing the Philippine man holding a makeshift broom made with old branches and cloths. Miguel Santos, 52, staggered back, but remained standing with a dignity that brutally contrasted with his ragged appearance. He never imagined that he would come to this point. He who 3 months ago still commanded a completely different life, making decisions that affected thousands of people. "Please, sir," Miguel insisted in an accent loaded with accent. "I just need money for food. I can clean your store, your showcases, work well." Bradley laughed loudly, a cruel sound that echoed through the mall corridor. "Do you think I'll let a homeless touch on my imported products? Look at you, man. When was the last time you showered?" The crowd that graduated included Jessica Martinez, a vendor of the Next clothing store who filmed everything to her TikTok. "This will go viral," she murmured to her colleague. "Look how dirty this guy is. What a disgust." Dozens of curious stopped to watch the show, some filming with their cell phones while whispering cruel comments. It was like a medieval circus where public humiliation served as entertainment for the masses. "Honest work is not ashamed," Miguel said softly, his calloused hands pressing the homemade broom. There was something in his posture, a strange calm, almost as if he had already faced much worse storms and survived to tell the story. "Work?" Bradley exploded in laughs. "Do you call it work? Man, this is a luxury mall, not a beggar shelter. Security." 2 security guards approached, but Miguel raised his hand calmly. "No problem. I'm leaving." He looked straight into Bradley's eyes for a moment, a look that carried something indefinable, an intensity that made the manager frown unconsciously. Richard Thompson, managing director of the mall, watched the upper floor scene, shaking his head with disapproval. "This Peterson is exaggerating again," murmured to his assistant. "One day this arrogance will be expensive for him." Marcus Williams, chief security of the mall for 15 years ago, observed the interaction with growing discomfort. There was something familiar in that Philippine man, something that stirred his memory in a disturbing way. "Johnson," he called his colleague, "have you seen this guy here before?" "For the first time, boss. But by the way Peterson treated him, he shouldn't come back anytime soon." While Miguel moved slowly, Jessica kept filming. "Guys, did you see this? The guy literally tried to get janitor work here at Metropolitan Plaza, as if it was normal for a beggar to want to clean designer stores." Miguel stopped in the food court, sitting on an isolated bank. He removed a broken cell phone from his pocket and typed a message. "Phase 1 complete. They bit the bait exactly as expected. You can start Phase 2 tomorrow." In the last 90 days, Miguel had observed every detail of that mall. I knew each store, every employee, every movement of the daily routine. His trained eyes had noticed discrepancies in safety systems, inconsistencies at employee times, and especially the small infractions that people like Bradley committed daily. It had meticulously documented every labor violation, every dwell scheme, every disguised bribery that kept that consumer empire working. It had recordings, photographs, financial documents, and a network of contacts that Bradley Peterson could never imagine. A young, tender executive passed Miguel and purposely played the rest of his coffee on the floor. "Hey, beggar, since it's there, it cleans it too," laughed, heading towards the executive parking lot. Miguel watched the coffee stain spreading through the Italian marble floor, each drop representing another calculated humiliation that would be charged with interest. Her fingers tightened her broken cell phone while memories of a previous life flashed in her mind. There, in the face of all the eyes of contempt, Miguel remained firm as one who holds too powerful secret to be revealed before the right time. If this story of prejudice and turnaround touched your heart, be sure to subscribe to the channel to find out how a simple work request would become the most expensive lesson that those people would never forget. The next day, Miguel returned to Metropolitan Plaza in the early hours of the morning, when only cleaning and security employees were present. This time, he carried a torn backpack and a small supermarket cart full of empty bottles. Marcus Williams, the chief security guard, saw him first. "Hey, you can't and stay here picking garbage. This is not a recycling deposit." "Sorry, sir," Miguel responded humbly. "I just want to work. Clear, organize, anything." The conversation was interrupted by the noisy arrival of Bradley Peterson, who descended from his red convertible BMW in the executive parking lot. Seeing Miguel, his face writhed with irritation. "What the hell is this guy doing here again?" Bradley shouted, marching toward them. "I thought I made clear yesterday that beggars are not welcome." Miguel remained calm, his firm hands on the shopping cart. "I just want the opportunity to work, Mr. Peterson. Do you know my name?" Bradley frowned suspiciously. "How the hell do you know my name?" "It is written on his manager ID." Miguel has called the golden badge in Bradley's chest. Jessica Martinez arrived to open her store, immediately pulling her cell phone when she sees the new confrontation. Guys, look who came back. The Filipino beggar is back. She started filming again, already imagining the likes she would receive. Other shopkeepers began to gather, creating a small circle of onlookers. Sarah Chen, jewelry manager, whispered to his assistant, "This guy has the courage. I give him it. Either he is very brave or very desperate." Bradley approached Miguel dangerously, invading his personal space. "Listen here, you're useless. I don't know which hole you came out, but this is the last time you set foot in this mall." "I understand perfectly," Miguel answered, but something in his tone made Bradley hesitate for a moment. Richard Thompson, the managing director, descended the stairs watching the scene unfolds. There was something in Miguel's calm that intrigued him deeply. No desperate man would remain so serene in the face of such humiliation. "Peterson," Richard called, "maybe we should—" "Mr. Thompson," Bradley turned, clearly annoyed by the interruption. "This guy is disturbing our tenants. I need to permanently remove it." Miguel looked straight at Richard for a moment, and the director felt something familiar in that look, a sharp intelligence that didn't match his desperate appearance. "Sir," Miguel said gently to Richard, "can I ask a question? Do you know the labor policies of this state for shopping centers?" The question took everyone by surprise. Richard blinked, confused. "Labor policies? I realize some irregularities in employee contracts here. Unpaid extra schedules, pauses for denied meals." Miguel spoke casually as if discussing time. Bradley laughed nervously. "What the hell is this guy talking about? He doesn't even work here." "Of course I don't work," Miguel agreed, "but I notice, and I learn a lot watching." Jessica stopped filming for a moment, intrigued by the change in the tone of the conversation. There was something different happening, something that his instinct for viral content was capturing. Marcus approached cautiously. That feeling of familiarity bothered him again. "Excuse me, sir," he said to Miguel, "but can I ask your full name?" "Miguel Antonio Santos," he simply answered. The full name echoed in Marcus's mind as a distant bell. Santos, Miguel Santos. Why was that sound familiar? He had heard that name before, in some important context. Bradley, impatient with the conversation, made a sudden gesture toward Miguel's cart, knocking several bottles on the marble floor. "Enough of this clowning. Security, remove this tramp now." The bottles spread with a crash, drawing the attention of other employees. Some laughed openly, some just swung their heads with disapproval, not Bradley's act, but by Miguel's very presence. Miguel bent calmly to collect the bottles, but when he got up, his eyes found Bradley's with an intensity that made the manager go after involuntarily. "Mr. Peterson," Miguel said softly, "are you sure you want to remove me?" There was something in the question, a dangerous calm that made Richard realize that they were dealing with someone much more complex than it appeared. At that moment, an expensive man approached the group. It was David Kumar, a labor lawyer who had recently been hired by some shopping employees to investigate anonymous reports on labor rights violations. "Excuse me," David interrupted politely. "I couldn't help hear the conversation about labor policies. I'm a lawyer specializing in the field. Can I help with anything?" Bradley paled slightly. In recent months, he had received some notifications about irregularities in his administration, but had managed to stifle complaints with veiled threats to employees. Miguel looked at David with genuine airess. "In fact, sir lawyer, I was just commenting on some questionable practices I observed here, but perhaps it is not the right time." "On the contrary," David smiled, taking a card out of his pocket. "It is always the right time to discuss labor rights." The circle of surrounding people grew up. Employees who would not normally dare to speak began to pay attention to the conversation, whispering each other about unpaid extra times and denied breaks. Jessica kept filming, but now with less fun and more fascination. This was becoming much more interesting than a simple beggar humiliation. Each new humiliation only strengthened something within Miguel that his oppressors could not see, a silent force being fed by his own injustice they tried to impose, while a meticulously elaborate plan began to unfold before the eyes of those who thought it was in control. That night, Miguel returned to the shelter where he slept since he had arrived in Los Angeles 3 months ago, but instead of bedtime, it discreetly opened a hidden cabinet and removed an apparently broken Dell laptop. With some accurate touches, the screen came to life, revealing complex monitoring systems and dozens of meticulously organized folders. "Recording day 127, phase 2 started as planned," he murmured to the recorder. During the last 90 days, Miguel had systematically documented each labor crime committed at Metropolitan Plaza. Cameras hidden in his torn backpack, recorders disguised as a broken cell phone, and a network of contacts that Bradley could never imagine. The next morning, David Kumar, the labor lawyer, received an unexpected call. "Mr. Kumar, here's Miguel Santos. Remember me? From the mall yesterday." "Of course, Miguel. How can I help you?" "In fact, I can help you. I have information about systematic labor violations at Metropolitan Plaza. Complete documentation. David almost knocked down the coffee. What kind of documentation? Recordings of threats to employees, counterfeit point records, evidence of systematic racial discrimination, all properly cataloged and with witnesses. 2 hours later, David was in the shelter, observing Miguel connecting devices that revealed a more sophisticated investigation operation than many law firms. My God, Miguel, that's professional. I worked with investigations before, Miguel said simply, opening a labeled digital folder. Bradley Peterson, evidence. The screen showed dozens of secret videos. Bradley threatening Latin employees who asked for meal breaks, forcing unpaid overtime, making racist comments when he thought he was alone. This one is last month. Miguel clicked on a file. In the video, Bradley instructed other managers, these immigrants work for anything. If they complain of time, they threaten to call immigration. They shut up. David was in shock. How did you get all this? Patience, and the fact that arrogant people never pay attention to those who consider irrelevant. Meanwhile, at the mall, Bradley celebrated his previous morning victory, posting on Instagram, keeping our standard of excellence. We don't accept any kind of people at Metropolitan Plaza. The post quickly accumulated hundreds of Etons from their upper-class followers, all praising their firmness in maintaining high standards. Jessica Martinez, who had filmed Miguel's humiliation, responded with support emojis. Perfect. Imagine if they let any beggar come in. What image we would pass to our VIP customers. Miguel showed the post to David, who shook his incredulous head. He is literally incriminating on social networks. This will make our work much easier. There is more. Miguel opened another folder. Private WhatsApp screenshots on managers planning how to explore immigrant employees. They think they are smart, but leave digital tracks at all. Marcus Williams, the head to chief, finally remembered where he had heard the name Miguel Santos. At his table, he opened old files from the mall administration. Her eyes widened as she found what she was looking for. It can't be, he murmured, taking the phone to call Richard Thompson. Mr. Thompson, I need to talk to you urgently. It's about that Filipino yesterday. Miguel Santos. What is he, Marcus? Sir, I found old documents here. Miguel Santos. It was the name of the main investor who funded the construction of this mall 15 years ago. The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Marcus, Richard said slowly, are you absolutely sure of what are you saying? I have the original contracts here. Miguel Antonio Santos, citizen Phil, naturalized American Filipino, initial investment of $50 million, sir. I think we treat the wrong person very badly. Richard hung up the phone and ran to his computer, frantically typing the name Miguel Santos on Google. The results that appeared made their blood freeze. Financial newspapers, photos at gala events, business awards, Santos Holdings, he read aloud, one of the largest real estate conglomerates on the West Coast, mysteriously disappeared from the business scenario 3 years ago after a family tragedy. At that moment, Miguel received a call from David. Miguel, I was able to schedule a meeting with the Labor Department for tomorrow. With its evidence, we can not only sue the mall for labor violations, but also open a federal inquiry. Perfect. Miguel smiled for the first time in months. And David, tomorrow you'll find out exactly who I really am. While the night fell on Los Angeles, Miguel sent a final message to an international number. Operation Dignity enters the final phase tomorrow. Confirm the presence of media representatives at 2 p.m. It's time to show that some ghosts come back not to haunt, but to do justice. It was when everyone laughed at their appearance that something unexpected began to take shape, not only in the judiciary that Bradley thought to control, but especially in the devastating revelation that would turn the predator into the prey before the eyes of all who witnessed their cruelty. The next morning at 9 a.m. in point, an official car train arrived at Metropolitan Plaza. Occupational department agents, federal inspectors, and media representatives descended simultaneously, transforming the luxurious environment into the scenario of a police operation. Bradley Peterson arrived for another normal working day when he was received by David Kumar and 2 federal agents at the entrance of his store. Mr. Peterson, I am the Agent Martinez of the Labor Department. We have an authorized search and seizure. Search for what? Bradley laughed nervously. This is ridiculous. You have no permission to. In fact, we have. David smiled, showing an official document, based on formal complaints on systematic violations of labor rights. At that moment, Miguel entered the mall, but this time it was not in torn clothes or makeshift broom. He wore an impeccable suit, followed by 2 assistants and a small entourage of journalists who had been summoned to document what would become a milestone in the fight against labor discrimination. Jessica Martinez, who filmed everything compulsively, almost knocked her cell phone. Guys, isn't that the beggar yesterday? Bradley looked at Miguel and felt the floor flee from his feet. What? How? Allow me to introduce myself properly, Miguel said calmly, extending a gold business card. Miguel Antonio Santos, CEO of Santos Holdings and sole owner of Metropolitan Plaza. The silence that was made was absolute. Richard Thompson descended the stairs, his pale face as paper. Mr. Santos, we didn't know. Of course they didn't know, Miguel smiled coldly, because they judged their appearance, just as I predicted they would do. David opened a folder containing dozens of documents. Mr. Peterson, we have here 127 labor violations documented in the last 3 months. Threats to immigrant employees, unpaid overtime, systematic racial discrimination, all recorded and witnessed. Bradley tried to deny it, but Miguel called a tablet. Bradley himself appeared by instructing other managers. These immigrants work for anything. If they complain, they threaten to call immigration. This was taken out of context, Bradley stammered desperately. Context? Miguel laughed. Let's go to the full context then. He triggered another file where Bradley appeared mocking Latin employees in the World Cup. These guys are too dumb to know their rights. The journalists filmed everything. Jessica, who once mocked Miguel, was now recording her own public humiliation, realizing that her career on social networks had just collapsed along with her prejudice declarations recorded. Mr. Santos, Richard begged, as a owner, we can certainly solve it internally. Solve internally? Miguel smiled with mortal irony. Mr. Thompson, for 3 months you had a chance to treat me with dignity. They chose the contempt. The most devastating revelation was yet to come. Miguel fired a tablet presentation that showed Bradley Instagram screenshots. Keeping our standard of excellence. We don't accept any kind of people on Metropolitan Plaza. My God, murmured a journalist. He literally incriminated on social networks. Bradley staggered back, finally understanding the size of his hesitation. Please, Mr. Santos, I have family, financing. I didn't know who you were. Exactly, Miguel said calmly, devastating. Didn't you know who I was, but it mattered? You treated a person who believed to be vulnerable, which says all about your character. David announced the consequences. Mr. Peterson is fired for a cause without compensation. In addition, he will face criminal proceedings for discrimination, threats and labor violations that may result in fines of up to $500,000 and 5 years in prison. Marcus Williams, the security chief, approached Miguel. Mr. Santos, I apologize on behalf of the entire security team. When I found out who you really was last night, I almost had a heart attack. Marcus, you were respectful with me from the first day, Miguel said gently. You keep your job, and you will receive a promotion. While Bradley was escorted by federal agents, other employees who had been intimidated for years began to meet around Miguel, finally free to talk about the abuses suffered. Maria Gonzalez, said a cleaning employee, tears in her eyes. I work here for 8 years and never received a penny of extra time. Thank you for giving us voice. The silent revolution that began with a simple work request was becoming the most complete labor reform that this shopping center had never experienced, proving that underestimating someone based on prejudice can cost much more expensive than arrogant could ever imagine. 2 years later, Metropolitan Plaza had become a national symbol of labor reform and social justice. Miguel Santos not only maintained the property of the mall, but turned it into a model of excellence in workers' rights that served as a reference for the entire country. Bradley Peterson served a 3-year sentence for racial discrimination and systematic labor violations. His bail had been denied after finding out that he tried to destroy evidence and intimidate witnesses. The man who one day humiliated Miguel for his appearance now wore orange uniform from the state prison, working in the laundry for $2 a day. Ionic, isn't it? Miguel commented during an interview with the 60 Minutes program. He who mocked my honest work now knows the true meaning of working for almost nothing. The Second Chance program, created by Miguel, offered free professional training for immigrants and vulnerable people. Jessica Martinez, ironically, had entered the program after losing her job when the prejudiced videos she filmed became nationally viral. Mr. Santos, she said nervously during the admission interview, I know I don't deserve it after what I did, but I need an opportunity to start over. Miguel looked at her with the same calm she kept throughout that journey. Jessica, we all deserve a chance to be better people. Welcome to the program. David Kumar had become the mall's official lawyer, implementing labor policies that served as a model throughout the country. Coast Companies Coast sent delegations to study the model plaza of inclusive and respectful management. Marcus Williams, promoted to security director, now commanded a team specifically trained to treat all visitors with dignity, regardless of their appearance. Miguel taught me that protecting people is not just about physical security, but about preserving human dignity. The case of Metropolitan Plaza became a documentary on Netflix, bestseller book, and even compulsory discipline in business courses on how prejudice can destroy business and lives. Harvard Business School has created a case study called Santos Holdings, When Justice Becomes Business Strategy. Miguel kept a simple office at the mall, where he received daily people seeking help to combat labor injustices. On the wall, a framed photo showed him in torn clothes, holding the makeshift broom of that first day. Never forget where it came from, he always told employees, because only those who have been despised can truly value human dignity. Richard Thompson, kept in office after demonstrating genuine regret and fully cooperating with investigations, had become a fervent defender of labor rights. Miguel taught me that leadership is not about command, but about serving those you lead. The most touching story was by Maria Gonzalez, the cleaning employee who worked 8 years without receiving overtime. Miguel promoted her for quality general supervisor, with a salary higher than what Bradley received when he was a manager. "My daughter goes to university next year," Maria said excitedly during the ceremony mall annual, "all because a man who was treated like garbage decided to treat us as a family." Metropolitan Plaza now proudly exhibited certifications of Best Employer in the State and Most Inclusive Shopping in America. Sales increased 40% when consumers knew of history and chose to support a business that represented their values. Bradley in her cell, occasionally via reports about the success of the mall on prison television, his cell colleagues knew his story, the man who lost everything for treating a Filipino badly, who turned out to be his own boss. "Must have hurt to find that the beggar was his boss," mocked regularly. Miguel proved that the devastating revenge is not to destroy the enemy, but to build something so great that it forces even the most prejudiced to recognize that they judge the color of the skin rather than the content of character. If this story of transformation and justice has inspired you as much as you inspire everyone who has experienced it, subscribe to the channel to find out more reports that prove that the best response to prejudice is the success built with dignity and purpose.